Hi, this is Tim Fairfield, Keysight Technologies. In this video, I will discuss how to prevent damage to 1mm cables and connectors. Some things to consider. If you do not already know, these cables and adapters can cost you $6,000 or more for replacements, and that doesn't even take into consideration matching sets. In addition, hardware that uses 1mm connectors can also become damaged, and there will be a hefty repair cost and downtime related to that. And the downtime for repair or replacement can impact your business as well. This content should bring you up to speed on what you need to know to prevent such damages. If you're still requiring attention or hands-on training, contact your local Keysight Solutions Engineer for an in-person training session. This video will cover 1mm locking cable features, how to safely attach the 1mm cable to avoid damage, connecting a ruggedized adapter to the N1060 DCA, and this also applies to the UXR scope. Attaching a 1mm locking cable to the DCA ruggedized adapter, and this is very challenging because there's many possible moving parts which you do not want to move. The 1.85 to 1mm fixed adapter description and properly attaching from the 64 gigabaud head to the BERT. Also talk about a note on bend radius and how to connect your connectors when they're not in use. Let's get started. So this is the cable, the end of the cable that has the locking mechanism. Now we notice three parts here. There's a nut. If I just point with my screwdriver here, there's a nut here. This appears to be a 6mm. I believe it's 6. And that's a locking nut, okay? The second one is to contract or extend the 1mm male head. So here it is. If we look down the barrel, we'll see inside, we see that it's retracted. If I was to just turn this a bunch of turns, that it's come up and slid into position. So when we back it out, and this is the correct position when you're starting, we back it out and you see it's gone way down inside the shroud that will be connected. So the idea here is we first hold the cable, we connect this onto the 1mm female. The next thing we do is we adjust this, we extend the pins once this has been torqued, and we'll show this later on. And then finally, you use the 6mm wrench, the 6mm, to tighten the extender so it'll tighten up against this and lock against it so there isn't any movement. When you take it off, the first thing you do is you unlock, using the wrench, the outer screw. Then you carefully back this out until you see all the threads exposed there. And inside it'll retract. And then finally you remove this using a different wrench. Next, check the cable. Sometimes you have to straighten the cable a little bit to get it to start. Finger tight, and then use the torque wrench to finish. So as for my earlier videos, and I have a specific one on this type of connector, we want to be very careful attaching. So I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to lock it in place first. I'm going to take our wrench to hold this portion in place. I'm going to use the red torque wrench. In this case, it goes counterclockwise to lock it in place. Do the other one, and again, we'll look at the 1.8mm as well. It's basically the same idea, but right now I'm using the slower speed pod for it. Get the go in place. When we want to connect to a 1mm rigid adapter, You first want to be very careful. You want to carefully place this on. You want to hold the rigid adapter with a rigid wrench so it doesn't rotate. I'm going to make sure also, remember the sleeve should be all the way back for the pin engagement. This can be a little tricky to get started, so take your time. You don't want the rigid connector to rotate at all. We're going to put on the and then finally we line up, and you've got it in the right position when the thread starts to go in. And finally hold that connector with a rigid wrench. Very important you hold it so that nothing else rotates. And we're done. When disconnecting from the 1mm connector, things get a little trickier. Remember from my earlier video on connector care, you shouldn't be rotating anything when you're connecting a cable. So we need to first hold on. Actually, there's one on here. And then we untorque this first. And then you gently unscrew it until we see all the threads. So we've succeeded here. The next point is we use the rigid wrench to hold that 1mm connector steady. Then we gently unscrew the 1mm connector. And then it's disconnected. This is the adapter on the M8058 64 gigabaud head, and this is a little bit different because this is not the same mechanism, although it's a 1.85 to 1mm adapter. So this adapter is actually on the end of this, and it will screw on. Now, the correct way to attach this is, first of all, connect this onto the 1.8mm, put it straight in, and only adjust this. What you do not want to do is move the rigid part. What we want to do is, once we do attach it, is only to rotate the rotatable part here, and then this will go straight in. That's the important thing. Once this is attached, you go ahead and you connect the cable while holding this side of the adapter with a wrench, and then you tighten this. So the order is first attach the adapter to the BERT itself, only rotate this part and lock it with the torque wrench, and then attach the cable while holding this connector, and then tighten up as so. So let's connect the adapter on. So what we're going to do is place the adapter on. We're going to finger tight, but we're not going to rotate the golden part. For torquing, it's probably a good idea to hold that with the rigid wrench. Next, we will come in with the remote head. So we don't want the cable to rotate. We want to keep it straight. We want to hold so once that's in place, we can go ahead and remove it. So we need to do the reverse process. First of all, let's hold this with the rigid connector. Next is to hold again with the connector, take the smaller wrench, and make sure that we aren't rotating the gold part. And that's it. The other thing to watch out for is there's a minimum bend radius of 15 millimeters. For those of you who don't know, I've got a toonie-sized Canadian $2 coin. This is similar to that. This is a little smaller, but we need a bend radius. We don't want to bend more than that radius to avoid damage to the cable. Just to be sure, as good practice is when you're not using these connectors to keep dust, contaminants out, and for anti-static protection, make sure that these covers are engaged. This is on the pod. Just make sure that the dust caps are on here as well. Again, to keep contaminants out, and put those on.
Thank you for watching my video, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Happy connecting.